Hi everyone, this is Nathan from Snap, and today I'm going to be giving you a quick overview of the analysis side of Snap, showing you how to access your data with minimal effort. It should take about 25 minutes, and as ever, there's plenty of resources available, which I'll point you to at the end. We're going to be using SnapXMP, our new seamlessly integrated platform, which has got three main components to it. Snap Desktop, which is installed on your PC or laptop, Snap Online, our cloud-based application, and for those of you who might be doing any field-based interviewing, so face-to-face interviewing, we also have the Snap Offline Interviewer app. Today I'm going to be focusing on the desktop software. We'll begin in data view mode, a top-line summary of your results. We'll then move on to creating tables and charts to help interrogate your closed or checkbox questions, whilst also taking a very quick look at clouds and lists to assist you in the analysis of your open response questions. Finally, I wanted to show you the standard reports included in Snap and how a few bespoke tweaks can really add value to these summary reports. Let's head into Snap Desktop to begin. I'll be using one of the demo surveys included in Snap called Course Evaluation. As you can see, there's 204 cases or completed replies, so when we're running our tables and charts in just a moment, there'll be a maximum of 204 people, although you will see that not every person has answered every question. You can see down the bottom that we have a number of different editions for this survey, so the PC, laptop, the tablet and the phone edition, but it really doesn't matter how data gets into the survey because data is data. I'm going to be making use of the analysis tab today though, just because it's a little bit easier to view in terms of the actual data. So this is just an extra edition that I've created where I've formatted the checkboxes on the right and turned off the maps and slider controls. Before we go any further, I did just want to point out that there is some routing in this survey where potentially people might skip over the demographics section towards the end of the survey. The effect on the data for these questions can be more easily seen within the variables window, where if I go and double click on question number 12, so my gender question, you can see that we have 98 males, 86 females, 2 people who didn't wish to reply, and then there's 18 people who were never asked that question because they chose to skip over that section. But if I close that one down and go back into the design window and then data view mode, we can start looking at the data for the entire survey. Within here we've got two different ways of looking at the data. Case data allows me to view individual cases, so each person one at a time, whereas counts allows me to look at the data for the entire survey, showing counts and or percentages. Let's take a look at case data first. So this allows us to look at an individual's response one at a time, and if I just come down to some of the other tick box questions, as I scroll through, you can see each and every response for that individual person, including the comments for each comment question. If I move back to case number 1, so person number 1, you can see that actually they didn't give a response for question 7. And if I come down to the demographics section at the bottom, you can see that person number 1 was male and they were under 18. What we can't see from here though is an overview of the demographics for all respondents. So for that we would need to move to counts. So here you can see that there were a total of 98 males and 52 under 18s. It is worth pointing out though that for question 9 it's not saying that the total yearly budget was £202, it's saying that 202 people answered that open response question. And the same for question number 15, it's saying that 186 people gave us their email address. But moving back to the gender and age question, we can look at this as absolute values, or we could turn on percentages. We do need to be a little bit careful when we're looking at percentages though, as by default Snap will exclude any missing data from its calculations. And by missing data I'm referring to the no replies or anyone who's perhaps skipped over that question due to routing, so the not asked that we saw earlier in the variables window. And percentages can be particularly misleading if we turn off our absolute counts. So for example, if we look at question number 7, so our general comment question, it does suggest that everyone has given a response to this question. But we already know that case number 1 didn't actually answer this question, and if I turn on my absolute values, we can see that 161 people answered question 7 of the potential 204 people. So the 100% is actually only relating to the 161 who did answer this question. If I want to base my percentage on everyone who saw that question, then we need to go up to Tailor and Analysis. And it's worth pointing out that the options under Tailor, these are the default settings for this particular survey. So here I can turn on my no replies. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to go into cells and I'm going to take my decimal places off the percentages, so take that down to 0. So if I click OK, you can see that actually it's 79% of the 204 people answered this question. Just to confirm though, the Tailor setting I just changed, that's affecting the entire questionnaire, so it's not affecting just question 7, but this is now all the percentages based on the original 204 people. We could apply a filter to the data to isolate specific sets of respondents. So again, I'll just come down to my gender section, and if I wanted to see the results of just the females, if I click on filter, and we could say Q12 equals 2. So I'll click OK. So that's removed the males. Again, it hasn't just taken the males away from question 12. The rest of the survey is now just the results for those 86 females. Now, there is obviously lots of ways to filter your data, and we went through some of these in a lot more detail in the Routing and Analysis Expressions webinar, which we did last month, and that's available to watch again on our Support Hub. So for the time being, I'm going to move on to our next topic, which is building your own analysis using tables, charts, lists and clouds. So we don't need the questionnaire design window anymore, so I'll close that one down. Across the top you can see we have the tables, charts, clouds and lists, but we're going to start off with tables today. There's 7 sections in here, or 7 tabs, giving us various options, including the cells tab that we saw earlier where we changed the decimal places for the percentages. But we're going to focus initially on the definition tab, and under the content I've got analysis and break, which is where we specify which questions we wish to analyse. So today I'm going to use question 13, which is my age question, and just click apply. Now I could have used the OK button, but that would end up closing this window down, and it's quite likely that we wish to make some edits, so I'll just go back into properties, and this time rather than making edits and pressing OK each time, I'm just going to keep making use of the apply button. Now you can see we've got a no reply row. Now that's there because earlier when we were looking at our Tailor settings, I turned on the no replies, so they're turned on by default. In this example we've got no replies, so it probably makes no sense really having those there. So this time I'm going to go into the base and labels tab, and we have those same settings that we looked at earlier, and I will turn those no reply settings to off and apply that one. So they're still turned on by default for any new tables and charts. I've just made a change to this individual table. Now you notice that there's a base, or a total of 186 people, where we know there's actually 204 people in total for this survey, and that's because if you remember the demographics section has some routing on there, so some people skipped over that question. So they would be classed as not asked. If I was to show those not asked people, you can see it goes back up to 204 people, so 18 people skipped over that section. But personally, I wouldn't leave that on there. It makes the tables look a little bit messier and isn't really required, so I'm going to set those back to exclude. Moving back to the definition tab, we could add additional questions in. So if I was to take question 12, which is my gender question, and apply that, that will produce a cross-tabulation table or a pivot table with the analysis forming the rows. So I'll have one row for each of my age categories, and then the gender forming the columns. So one column for males, one column for females. So the analysis and break and snap is exactly the same as your X and Y axes in Excel. So your analysis is your X axis and your break is your Y axis. But a good way of remembering that is when you're driving home later or getting the train or bus home, it may well break down. So your columns, your break always breaks down. Now, a moment ago when we looked at the age question, we had 186 people. We've now gone down to 184, so at least 2 people haven't responded to one of these questions. Again, you may wish to interrogate this missing data, so we could go back to base and labels, and again we could turn on the missing data, this time for the no replies, and apply that one. So here we can see that 2 people didn't respond to the gender question, one of which was under 18 and the other person was 35 to 44. Now, just having a quick look at the no reply section, you can see we have got 2 settings, one for the analysis and one for the break. So in this example, I have a no reply row and I also have a no reply column. There's no data in the no reply row, so this does give me the option to remove the no replies from the analysis, so remember going across, while still displaying the data for the column for the break. Now, actually today I'm going to exclude them both anyway. Going back into the definition tab, you can see on the right hand side we've got some percent options. Again, we have analysis, break, and there's also a base percent. Analysis, remember, means going across, so each row. So if I apply that one, so each of my rows adds up to 100%. So of the 51 under 18s, 55 of them, or 55% of them are male, and 45% of them are female. Whereas if I instead turn on break percents, it's now each column adds up to 100%. So that column adds up to 100%, and so does the female column. So of the 86 females, 27% of those 86 females are under 18, 10% of those 86 females are 45 to 54. We could also look at base percent, so base really means total or everybody. So now the entire table, or at least the middle section, adds up to 100%. So it's a percentage of the 184 people. So 15% of the 184 people are men who are under 18. 4% of the 184 people are men who are 45 to 54. Now, one of the key benefits of doing this all within Snap is that you can set this up whenever you like. So even before the survey's gone live, you can set these tables and charts up. So if I go ahead and click OK and save that with the blue tick, you can see it gives it a default name of AN1, which just stands for analysis number 1. And then if I close that table down and go back into my saved tables and charts, you can see I have AN1 waiting for me. Every time you click on it, it will open it back up again, but it doesn't just open back up again, it also recalculates your data. So at the moment this is the results for 184 people. If this was a live running survey and we were downloading or importing some more data, this table or chart would just automatically update. Before we move into charts, just to point out the fact that any of the analysis that we're creating today can be copied and pasted into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, anything you like really. Or alternatively, you can file and export into various different formats, including Excel CSV. Okay, let's take a look at charts next. So I'll just cancel this and close it all down. And it's the same idea really, just a different icon. The key difference really is that in the style drop down is where we can select what type of chart it is we wish to display. So you can go ahead and select something straight from the list, or instead if I click on select, I'm presented with a thumbnail of the different types of charts, which will just make my selection that little bit easier. So you can see that we've got a number of different types of charts, bar charts, pie charts, line charts, etc. And then towards the bottom there's a number of different colour schemes which can be applied on top of any other existing chart. But I'm going to go back to my simple bar counts, and we're going to take a look at question 4 today, which is which training course did you attend? So if I click apply, again at the moment you can see I have my no replies turned on, which I don't really need today, so I'm going to go back to base and labels and turn those off. And as I resize my window, you can see the fonts get bigger and smaller and things move around to accommodate the relevant space. I can grab hold of things and move things around. I can double click and that will take me into the chart designer. You can see it's taken me into the legend, and I can just pop it back to where it started. So if you are going to be popping that into PowerPoint or something, then you may wish to make a few edits before you do that. Now, just looking at some of the bars at the moment, it's quite hard to tell what some of the actual values are. So for my blue bar, the access bar, is that 11 or is that perhaps 12? So I'm going to go back to the definition tab. Again, I could click on select, but I'm going to just drop down the menu and I'm going to choose bar counts labelled. And that will just simply put labels on top of each of the bars. Now, I've still got the issue where I'm having to look over at my legend to see what actually these bars relate to. A quick easy fix for that one is to make use of the transpose button. In a table, transpose will switch the rows and columns around, so the analysis will become the break and the break will become the analysis. In a chart it does do the same, but the result of which means that the labelling on the bars moves onto each of the bars rather than being on the separate legend at the side. So it's always worth checking to see if transposing a chart makes it that little bit easier to read. I might then want to look at percentages. So you can see we have bar percent and bar percent labelled. But this is just where you need to bear in mind how our charts are produced in Snap, because really a chart is just a table in disguise. So my table in the background is calculating counts, my disguise is making it look like a percentage. And the danger is that the disguise doesn't match the data underneath. So for example, looking at the Excel bar, you can see it's currently saying 36%. Actually, that's 36 people, so 36 counts, with a percent disguise on top of it. So it's really important that you match up your disguise with the equivalent table underneath. So if I change that to analysis percents and click apply, you can see it was 36%, where really it's actually 18%. And to try and help you, we've named our chart styles to hopefully guide you to what needs ticking. So as I scroll down, you can see they've all got the word counts and percents, and some of them have also got the word transposed on. So use the style name as a way of telling you what to tick underneath. So in this example, the horizontal bar percent label transposed, it's saying percents, so make sure I've got percents ticked. It's also saying transposed, so make sure transposed is ticked. Other things that you might wish to do to a chart like this, we could sort this table either alphabetically or probably more realistically numerically, top to bottom. I could also double click on one of my bars to change the colours, so that'll take me into the chart designer. Now if I just open up this window a little bit. Now it's worth bearing in mind that I've clicked on one bar, it's taking me into the series, which is actually all the bars. So if I click on the plus, I can make changes to the labelling, so this will be the formatting of the labels at the end, or if I click on data point defaults, that will be the colour, and you can see I can add my own colours, I could put patterns on there. But again, this will do it for every bar on that chart, where if I click on the plus, we could then make individual changes to the different bars. Let's turn our attention now to dealing with our literal response questions, so our open-ended variables. So I'll just close these ones down. And we've got two options. We have a list and a cloud. So we'll look at a cloud to begin with. And I'm going to look at question number 7, which is my main general comment question. So the bigger the word, the more frequently that word was mentioned, and if I move into auto coding, it's picking out the most popular 25 words. There are always going to be certain words which you don't wish to display, so perhaps customer or client names or maybe offensive words, and these can be removed by going up to the analysis variables, and within there's what's known as an auto category variable, and that will allow you to manually remove certain words. But if I close that one down and go back into the definition tab, like a normal table and chart, we can break it down by another question. So I'll take the gender question and apply that one. So now we can see the different words for the males and the different words for the females. Now from an analysis point of view, it's probably worth pointing out that although this does look quite nice, is it actually telling us anything apart from people said certain words? What we don't know is under what context those words were said. If on the other hand we had a question which was more along the lines of please tell us 3 words to describe us, you're more likely to get something that you can actually more easily analyse. Another way to analyse your open-ended questions would be a list. So we'll stick with question number 7 again, so our general comment question, and click apply. So this will give me a comment for each person that answered question 7. If I was to add some additional content into the analysis, so perhaps the case number, so which order it is that they filled in the survey, as well as perhaps question 4, which is which training course did they attend, and apply that one, it then lays it out a little bit more like a sort of spreadsheet. Other little things we could do, because every single person has a case number, you can see we now have gaps in this list, so we could apply a filter of Q7 space OK. So this will now only give me people who've actually answered question 7. Okay, the final thing I wanted to show you today was the 3 reports which are included in every survey within Snap. So if I go up to the reports window, we've got the questionnaire report, which is a copy of your questionnaire but with the counts and percents next to each question, so very similar to the data view mode that we looked at the beginning. And then we got the 2 summary reports, which include a table or chart for every question in your survey. We're going to be looking at these reports in Snap Desktop today, but they are also available in Snap Online, and just to confirm that they will also contain the latest data regardless of where you look at them. As they are, these reports are a quick and easy way of looking at your data, but with a few bespoke tweaks we can easily add value to them and potentially produce something which covers everything you might need in terms of your analysis. So let's have a look at the standard summary report to begin with. So if I go ahead and press play, today I'm just going to point that off to a PDF writer. So I'll just press preview. If I zoom in, you can see at the top we have an introduction saying when the report was run and also how many people are in this report. And then for any tick box question, so any closed question, we have a chart. And then when we get down to any of our comment questions, we have a list. And for any quantity response questions, there's a mini statistics table. Now, because this is producing something for every question, we do have a situation where at the bottom I've now got a list of 100 zip codes or postcodes and also 100 email addresses. So we can make some edits to this report to make it a little bit more user friendly. So if I just close down the preview and if I double click on the actual report, you can see that it's broken up into a number of different instructions, including a tailor setting where we can edit the decimal places and turn on and off the no replies and the not asked. We also have a general page layout, a window size to specify the dimensions of each of the charts, and then as you can see we've got the introduction. So we're going to make a few edits to this. So initially I'm going to go into the introduction. And you can see there's some dynamic text in here already, but I'm going to add my company logo. So just like you would in the questionnaire design window, we will insert an image, and I'll just browse off onto my desktop. My image is a little bit too big at the moment, so I will zoom that down to 50%. If I then click OK and go into the actual report itself, we can then specify which questions under the content we wish to appear in this report. So I'm going to start off with question 1 and go through to question 13. Question 14 is my postcode or zip code question, so I'm going to skip question 14 out and say comma Q15. I'll click OK, and if I do a quick preview again, we should see that the report is now looking a little bit more branded up with my company logo across the top. And as I scroll through, we're predominantly looking at the bar charts with the general comment questions. What I don't have is all my postcodes. I have still got my email addresses because I left question 15 in. If we take a closer look at the charts on display, you can see that they've been sorted top to bottom, which is probably a good thing, but for certain questions they have a fixed set of answers, so a sequence of answers where when they're jumbled up it can cause confusion when we come to the analysis. So for example, looking at the frequency of training, you can see that my very first answer is this is my first. It then jumps to yearly, so the last answer, and then the two middle answers. If I come up to the previous questions, the satisfaction questions, again you can see that these have been sorted top to bottom, but my orders now goes 3, 2, 1, 4, 5. So to overcome this, I'm just going to close that report down and I'm going to head back into the questionnaire design window, and we can specify which questions should be in their fixed order. So for example, looking at question 5 A, B, C and D, and also question 6 A, B and C, D, if I right click on those questions and go into the variable properties, I can specify that these questions are what's known as an ordinal question. So again, they will remain in their original order when it comes to the analysis. Probably do the same for question 8. So again, set that to ordinal. So it's up to you to tell Snap which questions are ordinal. And realistically, you'd probably also do it for the age question. So the default setting is that every question is not ordinal. Okay, if I save that and quickly rerun the report again, so you can see page 1, question 1 is ordered top to bottom. When we get down to the satisfaction question though, they are in their original 1 to 5 order. To finish off, let's have a quick look at the summary tables report. So again, if I double click on that one, as before you have the option to edit the introduction and specify which questions it is that you wish to include. I'll leave it as it is for the time being and just press the play button just so you can see how it is by default. So you can see this time it produces a separate table for each of my tick box questions. If I close that one down and go back into the report itself, so option number 4, we've got the additional option of adding a break. So today I'm going to add my gender question in, so question 12, and press play. And this time you will see that each of my tables is now broken down by my gender question as well. So I've got the original table on the left, broken down by the men and the women on the right. Okay, I think that's everything that I was going to show you today. Hopefully you've seen something new there, particularly in terms of editing the default reports, but also for anyone new to Snap, a good insight into how powerful and also intuitive the analysis side of Snap is. As mentioned previously, there is plenty of additional resources out there, including a couple of pages which I've highlighted on our support hub. If you need help with any of the topics that I've been through today, then we are always on the end of the phone or email, whether that's accessing our help desk or perhaps booking onto one of our training courses. As well as that, if you are short of resources or perhaps just need a helping hand, then our research department can assist you with any aspect of your project, from simple data entry tasks right through to complete project management. Thank you for your time today, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.